Welcome to X's and O's, and today we are going to talk about Gareth Bale and Sergio Reguilon to Tottenham Hotspur. This one came out of the blue in terms of what the people outside knew, and also Thiago Alcantara has finally finalized his move to Liverpool. But first and foremost, obviously Tottenham has made two big deals which are going to improve their side. First of all, Gareth Bale for free. And obviously, there is more to the deal, like half and half, or maybe Tottenham is going to pay all of his wages while Real Madrid is going to cover his bonuses. And this isn't really a big loss for Real Madrid because Bale hasn't played much throughout the last season. Actually, he barely crossed 1,000 minutes for a player that is on 17 million per year. That is really low, so I would see this as something positive coming out of Real Madrid's camp. But what do you think about Tottenham and the player that they are getting on Bale?
Um, it's really tough because sometimes you never know. For example, you look at James. I think I really thought he's physically finished, and then I turned on my TV last weekend, and he was the best player on the pitch because he's a top player. That part never leaves you. Obviously, how his body keeps up for the remainder of the season, we'll see. It's his body has failed him for years now. So when you look at Bale, it's similar. Bale obviously takes care of him. James is a bit unprofessional, from what you hear at least. Bale is a great professional, but obviously he's always been injury prone. Secondly, as Madrid fans, we know Bale hasn't been really good since 17-18, and he hasn't been himself since 15-16. So you're talking the last time Gareth Bale was 4 years ago. And the
Yeah,
last time he was even, remotely good was over 2 years ago.
yeah,
Also, you're buying Bale if you're Mourinho, but you love to be pragmatic, especially in big games. Is Bale gonna defend? I can see Bale in a 4-4-2 with Kane up front, and then Lo Celso on the right in like a 4-4-2. Um, I just like as someone that has watched Bale for watches every Madrid game, so obviously watched every minute of Bale over the last few years. I think I don't see. I just think he's not the same player. Maybe he's so low on confidence, and he's just not interested in playing for Madrid, and to the point where he just can't showcase anything, and that's really not who he is. And he's way better than that. But when I look at him, like most games, he literally can't do anything right. So is it like, to be honest, I don't know. Like I also won't be shocked if Bale goes to the Premier League and like he's one of the best forwards in the Premier League this year and scores like 15 goals. Because there's certain things that you don't lose. Like for example, Bale is one of the best strikers of the ball in Europe. He's not gonna lose that. He is great in the air. He's gonna be loved in there so much, right? Like
yeah,
I think
yeah.
the lack of fans will not is a real shame for Bale, because if Tottenham had fans, like for example, his first game back would be incredible. It would all be about Bale, and he would get like a crazy reception. So I think I think he'll be a good signing. Like I don't think he'll be a flop for sure. I think he'll
Yeah,
be useful.
yeah, I think I agree with that. And also, just like you mentioned, environment is going to change completely. And the environment in Real Madrid for Gareth Bale hasn't really been the best ever since he joined, because you had Cristiano Ronaldo coming out on press conference and saying leave him alone, and Bale hasn't really been welcomed to Real Madrid the way you would expect a player to be. And also, you have got the issues of Bale not really trying to defend himself ever again. I think that has hurt him a lot. In general, Gareth Bale's career at Real Madrid could have turned out better on
Of
week,
course.
but in terms of how crucial he's been, nobody can deny that Gareth Bale has scored some incredible goals. Gareth Bale has given Real Madrid some incredible performances. But when you are looking for a player to consistently perform at Real Madrid, Gareth Bale hasn't been that. Gareth Bale has not been that player that is going to deliver for Real Madrid every single week. It has a lot to do with the way how he felt. It's a lot to do with the fact that he is an injury-prone footballer, has been ever since he joined Real Madrid, and I don't think he has ever crossed 3,000 minutes for the club in a season. And that is something that really makes you think. And even on his best career season in 15-16, he played, I think, around 1,600 minutes in La Liga, which is extremely low for a player that at certain times was carrying Real Madrid's attack.
Like tactically, what like I just thought of this. Tactically, one reason he could be better in the Premier League is like there is more space, you know. And I was watching the games this weekend, and there's clearly just more space. Like La Liga nowadays,
It's very compact.
every other team plays a compact 4-5-1. No spaces in behind. Even when Bale gets that free roll, no spaces between the lines. I just think like in the Premier League, he'll have more space. I think Mourinho will play him closer to goal. And I don't think he's lost the instinct to score a goal. Like I
Yeah,
think he
yeah.
can score goals. Going to the whole like Bale's career in Madrid, there's one thing I'm scared of. Like I don't care if Bale does well or does poorly. I don't really care. But it's going to be annoying when every time he does something we all know the English press and we all know um, the way Premier League viewers, you know, don't watch anything else and form opinions on what happens in other leagues. So the moment Bale scores a goal, or God forbid he scores a hat trick, you're gonna see nonstop articles, nonstop tweets about how he was mistreated in Madrid, how he was Madrid's best player or second best player
Yeah,
after Ronaldo,
yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
single-handedly won them 2, 3 Champions Leagues.
I mean, you already get that.
When in reality, like Bale has never, probably you could argue, Bale has never had a great La Liga season. You could argue Bale has never had a consistent season in Madrid, which is incredible. Like when you look at, if you just look at his big moments, you would say, okay, this guy is a Ballon d'Or winner. Maybe. I mean, he scored a bicycle kick in a Champions League final. Um, and he has winners in Champions League finals. He was probably man of the match in 2016. I know he didn't get it, but he was probably man of the match in that
He
game.
should have gotten that.
So when you look at that resume, you're like, okay, I mean, week to week should be no problem at all. But in reality, week to week, he wasn't even a top 6, 7, 8 performer in the Madrid squad during that during the 3P/4 Champions Leagues in 5 years. So I have nothing against Bale per se. Like I'm over it. I'm actually happy that he's leaving so we can remember him for the good that he's done. Like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I don't want to have any negative feelings towards him. I mean, this is a player that ultimately gave me some of my most memorable and
Moments.
some of the happiest moments of my football experiences. I started watching football as a kid, so I don't have any bad feelings towards him. But also, it's just the English media. You know what's gonna happen, right? The moment he scores a goal, you're gonna see that's how it is.
You know,
Unfortunately, and people that never watched him.
I just think that there are some journalists from the Times and Sun and such that are going, I'm gonna milk the shit out of this the moment that Bale is going to perform. They are just waiting for that. Because you saw what happened last summer. They took Bale's exit to China completely out of context, like Zidane is somehow mistreating him. Well, Zidane spent most of the year defending Bale, regardless of what happened between them. Zinedine Zidane, I don't think he has meant badly with Bale. And even when Bale asked to be left out of the squad, Zidane makes sure that that's going to happen. He didn't, because it's Zidane's right to be like, no, you're going to be there. And that's it. And Bale would have nothing to do, but Zidane respected that opinion enough. Which said that Bale was ready to leave Real Madrid at that point. And also, those transfer news also come with the fact that Bale actually realized that he will have to play for Wales next year, and obviously he's not gonna want Euros, and he obviously is not gonna want to disappoint a lot of people, and he needs to be in shape. And I think that a move for him was the best thing to maybe even, get the spark of wanting to play football again, because Guy clearly doesn't want to play football again. He's been taking the piss all year long. He hasn't been connected with his teammates, or anything on pitch, and he just needs this. I think probably Bale and Mourinho is a good combo, you would think, because Bale kind of needs somebody like Mourinho, and you just know that Mourinho is gonna treat him well, considering that Mourinho just signed him. He was a Mourinho signing. He's not a Levy or Levi signing. He is a Mourinho one. Also, tactically, I expect Spurs to be a little bit more expansive now with Bale because they can afford it, because now they have two players who can actually hold the ball for more than 1 minute in Harry Kane
In the
and
final
Gareth
third.
Bale. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because watching them against Everton, for example, it was painful to see Dele Alli, Heung-min Son, and Lucas trying to hold into the ball. It was just
But
painful.
but the Bale we've seen at Real Madrid in the past few years is not great at that though.
He's not
That's the
great,
thing.
but
Like,
he's still a huge upgrade over what I saw last weekend.
yeah.
Like, he's still an
Um.
upgrade. You can play Bale as number 10, where Benitez played him back then, and you can play like Del Alli role where he plays off the shoulder of Harry Kane. That can work perfectly well. I could see that happen. You can play Bale as a right winger, and pretty much he's gonna have to do more tracking back, which I don't think he has the body to do that. But we might see what Mourinho is planning with them. Because and one more thing about the English media. I was so shocked when all the journalists were like, oh, it seems like James Rodriguez is playing on a right and not as number 10. And I was like, what did you expect? He was always going to play there for Ancelotti.
Yeah.
You know, and you
Yeah.
can see that clearly they don't do enough homework to come up with such things. They don't really watch enough, but they make big statements, and that is where the problems begin. But I think that it's time to move on from this journalist talk and such. And in short, do you consider Gareth Bale a Real Madrid legend?
From the perspective of like a Madridista that watches Real Madrid twice a week, every single week for 12 months, and knows what a legend like Iker or Ramos or Ronaldo or Modric or like these players that showed consistency week in and week out for years and years. Um, and how like they're that's what I look at for to be like a legend. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 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 exactly.
Um, from that perspective, no, because literally you're talking about a player that you could argue has never ever had a consistent season. I think that's a bit harsh. I think he did, but you could argue that he's never had a consistent season. So how can you be a legend at the biggest club in the world if you've never had the consistent season? But there's also the other perspective. As a football fan, as a Madrid fan, Gareth Bale has given me three or four of the happiest moments of my
Life as a supporter.
my life as a Real Madrid fan.
Yeah.
So that also matters. Like to you can't overlook that. So I would say from a casual standpoint, he's a legend. From like a very hardcore, detailed standpoint where you really look at everything closely, he's not.
Exactly.
You also have to take into account that this is Real Madrid, right? Like if it's any other club, he's 100% a legend because
Yeah,
if
yeah,
it's any other club and you score a winner in the Champions League final, you're already a legend.
yeah,
Let
yeah.
alone like
Exactly.
two winners and arguably a man of the match performance in 2016 and a classical winner in a cup final. So I would say I would say it's debatable. Like I honestly don't even know. Like I'd be sometimes I feel that yeah he's definitely a legend because how can you produce those moments and not be a legend? And sometimes I feel like it's unfair to call him a legend. It's unfair to other
It's
players that
unfair to
have
other
really
footballers who have pretty much dropped blood and sweat to take the
eh,
club where it is. And now you're putting Bale kind of in the same category as Real Madrid legend, and obviously it becomes a little bit harder to dissect. So,
exactly. So
so
uh,
He's an icon, that's for sure. He's an icon of the club with the goals that he scored and the transfer fee and the buzz surrounding Bale. But a legend, I think it's a bit of a step too far for Bale. It's just, as you mentioned, he hasn't been consistent enough on pitch throughout all of those years, especially in the last 2 years, the problems, and also the fans have never felt that connection with him as a player, which is extremely important to do when you are being brought into those conversations. And normally, you would give this thing a bit more years to see where Real Madrid is from this point to without Bale, because now he's just leaving. Now you are going to sort of evaluate everything, the players replacing him, and their contribution. You know, there are a lot more
But
things that need to be taken into
but
consideration.
Bale hasn't been a Real Madrid player for 2 years though. Like if we're being real,
Yeah,
he's been irrelevant for over 2 years. So for
but
me, it's
that
like,
that doesn't really matter much for as long as he's played 1,000 minutes, 1,000. He's still represented Real Madrid, whenever from bench, stands. He's still been a Real Madrid player, Real Madrid employee, and therefore now he's leaving, and now you are starting to have these calculations about where does Bale stand on the rankings, and I just don't believe that Bale has done enough as a player to be called a legend, not just on pitch, outside of it as well. The connection, the fact that he's always been the guy behind the scenes, and he's just. You would want more from a player, more. And when you look at all the other Real Madrid legends that you mentioned, they are more vocal towards the club, and you can actually feel the fact that they love the club, which is something that you don't with Bale. You know what I mean? Those things matter for me when I'm thinking about a club legend, because it's a huge thing. You cannot give it to everybody, because at that rate, every single player that has been part of the three-peat has to be called a legend.
yeah.
And this is my stance. And legend should be just something that we kind of reserve it for the more special players. And I don't think Bale was the special player, in my opinion. Obviously, everybody can see the
Like, what do you
situation
mean?
different.
Like, special him as a player, or like a special player from the just perspective of a Madrid fan during his years?
I need, what I mean is that I need to feel that electricity on pitch and off it. You know, I need to feel that the player is giving enough to the fans, to the club, everything involved, right? And like Ronaldo, for example, doing a little bit of a leadership, being a little bit of a leader,
Yeah.
knowing that you are dragging the team, and you just don't see that with Bale. You know what I
I,
mean?
I've probably only felt that once with Bale away at Rayo Vallecano in 2016. Literally, like that's
Yeah,
pretty much the
I,
only game
I,
where I
I,
felt like,
I mean, can you count one, two, or three games where he's done that? I'm not saying that he hasn't done that, but I've seen Marco Asensio drag Real Madrid against Valencia. I'm not calling Asensio a legend because he dragged the team for one game or two or three. You know what I mean?
yeah.
The thing is that I want more from a player than Bale has given.
He was signed for a world record fee, so
Yeah, yeah,
the
yeah.
expectations were high. It's not like, the expectations were high, and he was
Also,
signed to win La Decima, and off
all
face value, if you
yeah,
say,
yeah, yeah.
he was signed to
It
win
would
La
not
Decima,
happen
and he
without him.
won four.
Yeah, it would not have
But
happened without him. Like I'm kind of inclined to agree with that. Obviously, there are what ifs, but facts are La Decima happened after Bale joined, and he played a part there. So
of
there is
course,
that. I think that this is just up for interpretation, how people want to see it. You know,
yeah, I agree.
Reguilon is going to be a great pickup for Mourinho, and he can work well with an inside forward like Heung-min Son. And Real Madrid did a great deal there, including a buyback clause, which is at 40 million, I think. And I think that this been a good piece of business from both sides. Obviously, there is yet to see because Bale is a huge gamble, but I don't think Reguilon is as big of a gamble as Bale is, for example.
I think Riggy. Look, the fact of the matter is this, right? Like, Reguilon is a quality player. We can all agree on that. Okay, Reguilon is a fullback that I would say 95% of teams in Europe would love to have, because I mean there's a shortage of quality fullbacks, and yeah, not many teams can say no to Reguilon at left back. Like I really think there aren't many left backs around that are better than him.
Yeah,
He's
yeah,
a top 10 left back in my
yeah.
opinion.
Top 10 left
So
back, definitely.
but at the same time, Reguilon has problems defensively. He's a very attacking fullback. Now, given the way Mourinho likes to play, that could be a problem because he does lack the intangibles of like positioning, just like his positioning in like a block when you're defending in a settled shape, stuff like that. Okay, but also he does have the potential to be good defensively because he has the work rate, he has the physicality, he has the grinta. He has that like that he's just a dog. He
Yeah,
has that dog in him to
and
defend.
yeah,
So now you're looking at Mourinho. Now you're looking at Mourinho. Mourinho, you got one of the most exciting fullbacks in Europe right now, and he even has the potential to improve defensively. So it's your job to improve him defensively because he needs that coaching to become a good defender, and I believe he can become a good defender. So it's your job to develop him in that sense, and it's your job to get the best out of him. End of. I don't want to hear the excuse of like, oh, Reguilon is bad defensively. Yeah, he is not good defensively right now, which doesn't suit the way Mourinho plays. But it's Mourinho's job to develop that.
yeah, for sure. Region, and I think that Mourinho can be a good coach to improve his defensive. I'm not sure about Mourinho as a manager in 2020, to be honest. But I mean, it's the first game of the season. He just got his signing, so that is something to be talked about later down the road. Right now, I want to preserve my judgment on Mourinho. I hope that Region and Bale are going to be successful there. I wish them all the best. But now, one of the
Eh,
best midfielders in the world has joined Liverpool. Thiago
yeah,
Alcantara for 30 million. On paper, that looks like a steal, even on a depressed market like it is right now.
yeah. I mean,
I think that signifies the shift on the way how Liverpool are going to play. They are going to be more possession dominant. They are going to try and use that three even further, but now differently because they are moving from a side with a lot legs in Gini Wijnaldum, James Milner, and Jordan Henderson to a more Naby Keita, Thiago Alcantara, and Henderson type of midfield, which has good qualities technically, can play with the ball, can move it, and their front three is really good to be able to make best of those. What do you think?
yeah. I think it's something that Liverpool needed. They needed like a breath of fresh air because it was getting like it's normal, when you play a certain style, even how no matter how dominant you are, um, you need something different. You need
Lex
something fresh,
Lex can
and
go as far as they can, and Klopp has already tasted that with his Dortmund, and now he's trying not to have a repeat of that.
yeah, I mean, and Liverpool's midfield was always their weakness. I think even when at their best, people felt that okay, in the system, these players are doing the job, but ultimately, individually, these players are not that good. They're not really meant for the level that Liverpool are competing at. So when you buy arguably, like when you buy a top three midfielder in the world right now, a treble winner, someone that just dropped, world class performance after another in the Champions League. That's a big deal. How Klopp uses him though is I don't know. Like, is he gonna use him deep? Is he gonna use him between the lines? Is he like you know what I mean? That's where it gets interesting. But I do think, yeah, I
Yeah,
do think
but
Liverpool
a
are moving
midfield,
to a more possession based
yeah,
and
yeah,
less
more
direct,
football.
um, more less physically demanding style as well. I think Klopp feels that
He's
eventually like the first of all the legs, even though they have lots of great athletes, but they're only human beings,
I mean,
and
three
also
years
the
now.
motivation.
3 years now of doing the same thing, and it's going to get hard, definitely.
I think it's physically and even motivation wise. You know, it's a demanding style, right?
He,
And and yeah, I think as we saw against Leeds, like Liverpool were not pressing aggressively as they usually do. So that could be the shift there. Like maybe obviously they'll still press, like all top teams press nowadays, but not as aggressively,
yeah,
not week in and week out,
they
not
are.
for 70, 80 minutes a match.
Yeah, and they are going to be the side who is going to be more dominant on possession. Fabinho, Naby Keita, and Thiago Alcantara looks a very good side. Good midfield on paper, like you have Fabinho as defensive midfielder. Thiago is going to play a little bit deeper with Naby Keita as number 8. That sounds really good on paper. How it plays out, we have got to see. But
I
also,
the
there is a thing. Keita is injury prone. Thiago has a
Thiago's
lot
injury
of
prone.
kilometers on his legs. So obviously Liverpool are going to have to shift between the workhorses and the technical players. They are going to have to make a lot of sacrifices throughout the season.
And the question is, are they gonna keep Wijnaldum? Because I also think that's a big deal. Like, if you get Thiago and keep Wijnaldum, then you're getting the best of both worlds, right?
Yeah,
Like, you
yeah,
can
yeah.
one game you can play this style, the other game you can play the other style, and then also you give Thiago rest. Like, Thiago is very injury prone. Like, honestly, like as much as I hate to say, but if they're selling Wijnaldum and you Liverpool don't have depth, and Thiago has to play week in and week out, I would be really shocked if he doesn't suffer muscle injury after muscle injury. It's just what we've seen for years. You know, it's not
Yeah,
nothing
yeah,
new.
yeah.
Given the intensity that Liverpool play with, the intensity in the Prem, Liverpool don't have depth. Liverpool do not have depth. So if Wijnaldum leaves, Thiago literally will play 90% of their games. That Wijnaldum literally plays every game for Liverpool, right? So if he leaves and Thiago comes in, Thiago can expect to play at least 80%. And that's not.
They
I
still
don't think
have.
Thiago has ever done that since like his first season at Bayern in 14-15
Yeah, it's gonna be really interesting to see this shape up.
or
And
13-14. Sorry.
yeah,
Yeah.
I just saw a quote from Chris Wilder, and he was like, "When I came to the Premier League, Eden Hazard left, and I was relieved. But now I have to deal with Gareth Bale." It's interesting how they are perceiving Bale in England. They still see a top footballer in him, even coaches, not just the journalists. I'm sorry to get back to
Yeah.
that, but it's interesting to see how highly regarded Bale is. And
Yeah.
yeah, and Thiago, obviously, like right now, you could make the case for him being the best midfielder in the world, given the season that he's had. He was flawless on every single game, even with Spain now after the break. He's an amazing midfielder, and obviously, you have got to see how Jurgen Klopp is going to use him because they need him. I personally believe that Liverpool does need Thiago Alcantara. What they do with Gini Wijnaldum is going to be interesting to see. And there's a chance that he won't leave because they just sold Ryan Brewster for 25 million euros or pounds, I'm not sure, but that is pretty much covering the fee that they're paying for Thiago Alcantara, which is insane.
Yeah.
And uh, I really want to see how this Premier League season shapes up in general because there have been many great transfers. Like, obviously, we shouldn't even have to mention Chelsea. Now, Liverpool are doing this, City are still in the market, Arsenal are looking really good with Arteta, and now they have the chance of getting one of Partey or Awa. And there is
Yeah.
Everton with James, Richarlison, Doucouré, Allen. There is a lot of quality this season in the Premier League, and it hasn't been like this for a very long time. So it might not be a runaway for City or Liverpool, as I saw some people predict. They are still the best two sides, and they are still improving, but it's going to be a lot more competitive than it's been over the last 4 seasons, I would say now, where the champions are pretty much being
Yeah.
determined like early weeks.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, I'm really excited for this Premier League season. I haven't like watched the Premier League really, really closely, like week in and week out since 17, 18.
Yeah.
Uh, but like this season, I'm really, really excited. That's them. Uh, that's the league I'm following the closest, most likely.
Yeah. Uh, Really, it's nice to see that football is back. Obviously, we are going to keep track of everything. We are going to come with new videos. If you guys have any questions, let them know down below. Let us know also, do you think that Gareth Bale is a Real Madrid legend and Slash is gonna do well at Premier League? I think that this is all for this. Thank you all guys, and we will see you on the next one.
Thank you.